you were literally my first choice for NFL Draft Week, because out of all the stories that I have been able to hear on my show over the last 7 years of doing my show and the podcast before it that you were on, the story you tell about how you got started and getting basically on the radar screen of Bill Polian is easily one of my favorite origin stories that I've been able to have. And I really want to give you the floor on that for NFL Draft Week as we are getting ready for people to have their dreams realized in the NFL Draft. Pat.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And obviously you'll do a great job with the draft coverage, and I can't wait to watch it every single year. And there's a lot of dreams that come true, and there's people that really look forward to draft weekend and draft night because, this is years and years and years and years of hard work, things that people have never seen happen in the 5 a.m. lifts, the cardio in the morning, like a lot of people's dreams coming true. And everybody just assumes that draft weekend is a blast. For me, it was almost a complete nightmare. I mean, we're talking drunk, miserable, last day of the draft, 7th round is just ticking away. The Dallas Cowboys told me they were going to draft me. They draft somebody else in the 4th round. Wow. I'm sitting on a golf course with my family waiting for the call from Jerry Jones, basically. So our day was, we're golfing, having a blast. There's a lot of booze on the course. We'll wait until we get the call from the Cowboys, and we'll just go ahead and turn this thing up a little bit. We knew the first night I wasn't going to get drafted. Second night I wasn't going to get drafted. So we obviously celebrated being a Cowboy those first 2 nights. And then the third day, back in the day, whenever it was the third day for I think 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, or 5th, 6th, and 7th, or whatever, that was the day that I was going to get drafted to be a Cowboy. So then while we're on the golf course, my mom, who's normally a pretty reserved person, she's in the golf cart and she's waiting for the party, and she's the one that's updating everybody with her phone. And she actually goes, and I don't know if you're allowed to use, she actually goes, "Oh, fuck." Like she actually says that, right? And my mom would never do that. Okay. So she would not do that. She's normally pretty quiet or whatever. So my dad, who I think pretty well at this point, you've heard about, my dad goes back there and he goes, "Oh no." Right. And my dad goes, "Oh, the Cowboys drafted another guy. Let's get out of here." So we literally just leave the golf course. I think we're on like hole 11 or 12 maybe to go back home. And we had no other conversations with anybody really that told me they were going to draft me. So like aside from the Cowboys, I was trying to figure out what plan B was. I wasn't invited to the combine. I kicked in the Senior Bowl, but nobody was really talking to me. The Cowboys are really the only people that were talking to me. The Colts did a couple workouts, but they never told me like, "Hey, we're going to draft you," or whatever. Then when I get drafted, pick 222 via a trade with Philadelphia, by that point, our entire house, okay, the entire neighborhood, drunk, miserable, telling stories about how the good old days when I used to kick for West Virginia. We thought like literally this was over. We thought, okay, we're completely screwed at this point. Get a call from a 317 number, pick 222. I answer, "Hello," and it gets real loud. And it's Bill Polian talking to me. And Bill Polian's like, "Hey, we just traded with the Eagles. We can't wait for you to be a Colt." And at that point, I think I'm potentially competing with Adam Vinatieri for the kicking position. Okay, so I'm like, long road ahead of me here. I don't know how this is going to go. And then he goes like, "We're drafting you to punt." And nobody really, they had me work out as a punter. And I thought it was always like, kick field goals. Can you also punt if you have to? Because in college, we did the rugby rollout punt. So I would just catch the snap, sprint to my right, kick as hard as I can, and just hope it would roll. Very different than the NFL. Very different. So nobody was like, "Hey, you'll be a punter." So when Bill drafted me, he goes to punt, it was like almost like oh God. And then at that point, the TV had caught up to the news, and the house went from drunk and miserable to lit and ecstatic. We all think I'm going to kick field goals for the Indianapolis Colts. They're yelling. The whole house is pumped. The whole town is pumped. And Bill Polian's assistant basically goes like, "All right, I'm going to run through some numbers. What number do you want?" I'm like, "What?" She's like, "What number do you want?" She goes, "One's available." I was like, good, that's good. And she's like, "Okay, what flight do you want to come out here next week for the rookie thing?" She's like, "There's one at like 5:30 a.m. or whatever." I'm like, that's good. Like people were screaming. So it kind of just like came to be a hell of a party. Obviously, my entire town of Plum all kind of met at this Italian joint, and we all just kind of had a great time. But it wasn't until the next morning we realized, like, okay, now I got to learn how to fucking punt. You know what I mean? Like, so now, like we celebrated, we celebrated it, but then we had to make it happen. And I was bad for a long time. I was very thankful for Bill Polian, who, and I quote, said, I think you're athletic enough to figure it out. It's like, yeah, we're going to find out if you deserve that gold jacket or not, Bill. I guess we're going to find out. So draft day was insane. It was almost miserable. It became a dream come true, but there's a lot of people out there that have no clue what's going to happen draft weekend.
I love that story, man.